suspect handcuffed in the prone position and move the suspect over into the side recovery position, as is per policy. According to the prosecution, this was a suspect who was suicidal, who was possibly intoxicated, suffering from some mental issues. And those officers were commended for doing the right thing. So the prosecution had an opportunity to put that before the jury to show that he knew how to do it right. The second incident that the court allowed in was in 2017 with a female suspect that Derek Chauvin allegedly used force on, even in the prone position with his weight on her after she stopped resisting, as an incident to show that he's kind of like a prior bad act of
he's done this before to a female after she stopped resisting
in the past, and ultimately he didn't take the stand and the jury did not hear.
Okay, y'all. So I just muted it over there. We're going to watch live from Court TV. Thank you all for being here. I see y'all coming on in. We're about 9 minutes away from the verdict. It is either, I think at least, it's either definitely guilty or it's definitely not guilty. These jurors have not even been deliberating for more than 24 hours. It was a little before 4 p.m. CST yesterday that the judge sequestered them and told them to go over there. And then they wrapped up their deliberating, around 10 p.m., 10, 11 p.m. last night. So that's at the max 7 hours. And now here we are today, them starting around this morning. And it's 3:22. So we're talking about at least a max. I'm gonna overestimate just to give a little space. About 15 hours of deliberation, which means to me, they are all on one accord. This is not a hung jury, and they are either all saying guilty or they are all saying not guilty. So we are going to watch together. We're going to watch together just to see what happens. Make sure y'all are guarding yourself. I definitely prayed a few minutes ago just about everyone and how we're going to receive this and what it's going to look like on the other side, like if it's not guilty, because honestly, if it's not guilty, that's when I really can kind of see more of a reaction. If it's not, there might be a reaction if it is guilty, but I see more of a reaction if it's not. So let's just take a moment. let's definitely just take a moment. But then also making sure, at least for me, not necessarily celebrating if it is guilty in a revenge type of spirit. What I'm looking for is accountability. I'm not looking for revenge, me personally. And so I would implore everyone to consider that and to continue to think about that. And I actually was just talking with someone. If you end up seeing me do this or whatever, I'm talking to someone over there. Was talking to someone and they brought up the family, which we've discussed this before too, where, I mean, we can be moving, we can be so emotionally charged that we're not necessarily, or we forget about the family. And I'm guilty of that, of being so caught up in the case and not really thinking about the family and how they are continuing to have to watch their loved one be killed on tape time and time and time and time and time again, continue to have to see social media battles where people are, or, coming at their family or their loved one. So just thinking about the family, praying about the family for sure. Sure, Jessica Reed, I surely can. I surely can. Some people are asking me to pray right now. So that is what we're going to do. So let's do that, because we are about 6 minutes out from when we're thinking about, or when we are expecting the verdict. So excuse me, let's pray real quick. Oh gosh. Thank you, Father. Lord God, I just thank you, God, again, for who you are, for your majesty and your power, God, for your will and your righteousness, Lord, for your grace, for you being slow to anger, for you being a righteous judge, for you loving us and sending your son, Jesus, for us, God. I thank you for everything, Lord. I thank you for your heart. I thank you for your spirit that lives in us, your people who submit to you and who have given our lives to you, God. And I pray for all of the brethren in the faith. I pray for the people that are not in the faith, God, that you would move upon all of our hearts, Lord, for first and foremost, that we recognize who you are, who you said that we are, and that your will is true and that you are just, righteous, and worthy to be praised, Father. Lord, this is such an emotional, trying time right now. It's just such an emotionally charged time where where people are arguing, where people are hurt, where people are tired of history repeating itself, Lord, where people are tired of fearing those that are sworn to protect us, where people are tired of being berated just because they wear a badge. God, it is just a politically divisive time and emotionally charged time. And I just ask for your peace, for your calm, for your grace upon each of our lives, God, whether the verdict is guilty or not guilty, or whether it's a hung jury, Lord, that we can, in our emotions, in our reaction to this, continue to fall on our knees and give you the glory and the honor, that we continue to trust you, that you will see us through whatever the verdict is, that you will get us on the other side of it, God, because you know what's going to happen. We are just finding out. And so I just pray for everybody on this live, those that will rewatch the live, those that are not going to watch at all, God, that you would continue to lead us in our lives, continue to lead us in this moment, and just help us, Father. Lord, help me. Again, help me to continue to speak in a way that is pleasing to you, Father, in a way that glorifies and honors you, Father. Thank you, Jesus, so much for what you did on the cross. And thank you so much for being at the right hand of the Father right now, praying for us, Lord. In your perfect name, Jesus, I pray and ask. Amen. So, okay, guys, let's tap in. We are 3 minutes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute myself. We're going to watch the court TV people talk, and then I'll tap in as we go from there.
We want to point out for everyone that, there had been
already spoken out publicly about the case very strongly, very adamantly. His opinion was that this is a case of positional asphyxiation due to compression of the neck and the back of George Floyd. So he agreed completely with the findings of Dr. Michael Baden and Dr. Alicia Wilson, who were the two forensic pathologists who conducted the private second autopsy at the request of the Floyd family. So certainly worth noting that. Although it wasn't Dr. Rutt who was called, it was certainly a very competent expert with Dr. Fowler giving the defense medical testimony. I want to switch gears and talk about who might have been the most effective witnesses in the case. And I think there's been a lot of conversation we've had on Court TV about how so many police witnesses testified for the state. And it's really, it's uncommon to see that happen. It's uncommon, for instance, to have a police
How are y'all
defendant.
feeling?
We know that.
Or what do y'all think is going to be the verdict?
And I think the one whose testimony really, really resonated with the jury is that of the chief, the top cop there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chief Daria Arredondo. You see her on the top left of the screen in his testimony. So I want to replay a portion of that now, please.
Did you see them provide any medical attention?
I did not.
And based on these observations, do you have an opinion as to whether the defendant violated MPD departmental policy 7-350 by failing to render aid to Mr. Floyd?
I agree that the defendant violated our policy in terms of rendering aid.
All right, and we just got word that defendant Derek Chauvin has just arrived in the courtroom and is present, awaiting the reading of the verdict. I want to go to Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae now for this next question about the police, the former colleagues of Derek Chauvin, who all gave testimony, in particular the chief's testimony. Julia, what do you think that said to this jury as they're watching the evidence be presented?
And Julie, I do want to first say that we are getting word that Philonise Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, is inside the courtroom as well, but they are wanting to wait to see if another seat will be approved for that family. We know they've only gotten one family seat per side. There is a woman there who is for Derek Chauvin as a family member, and they want there to be another seat for the wife of Philonise Floyd, Keita Floyd. So that is something that is happening now, and they're waiting to figure out if that's going to be approved. But to your point about Chief Arredondo testifying, I was in the courtroom for that as a poll reporter that day, and you could just feel the authority that he carries with him coming into the courtroom, likely someone that these jurors have seen on TV as the chief of their city. And you see he's carrying his service cap, and this was a large cap with all that gold adornment, and it sat there on the witness stand with him as he was testifying. So I think it's so rare for us to see a chief of police coming and testifying. Usually we see investigators, we see people who are involved with the crime scene, but not the chief himself. In this case, there's a police officer who is in the defendant seat. So even more rare, I would think, for the chief of police to be there. But they seem to be engaged in the way that he spoke to them. And he really was like a seasoned witness on the stand in the way that he engaged this jury.
He certainly was. And we know that the two biggest issues in this case were cause of death and use of force. Without a doubt, this is where the focus was for both sides. And so what I want to do now is play another clip. This one is from Barry Broad. He is one of the state's witnesses called to testify to the use of force on George Floyd.
Now,
we'll look
so in
past
terms of the initial
332.
uses of force, the officers' efforts to get Mr. Floyd into the car, you felt that they were objectively reasonable.
I did.
Did the use of force then continue after Mr. Floyd was restrained on the ground?
I don't consider a prone control as a use of force.
That part made me so mad. What else would it
I
be?
make a correction there. I misspoke. That was, of course, the defense expert on use of force. We know both sides called use of force experts, so a lot of testimony this jury had to sort through with respect to that issue. Chanley, let's talk about that if we can, please. The use of force, how this plays in, and the defense argument. Their argument has been that this was authorized force. And we know even in the instructions, we see the word unlawful force as being something. It was the subject of one of those motions yesterday, an oral motion that was made on the record because of the way Eric Nelson characterized what the state had to prove. So talk to us about that, if you would, please.
Yeah, authorized force is an affirmative defense here. So the prosecution had to disprove that in their case in chief beyond a reasonable doubt. They had to show to this jury. That's why they called so many use of force experts and those high-ranking law enforcement officials to show that it was unlawful, unreasonable use of force that Derek Chauvin displayed. Even some of those witnesses, Julie, really tediously breaking down video by video, almost time frame second by second of that 9 minutes and 29 seconds where Derek Chauvin is on top of George Floyd about how it was unreasonable and why, and of course against policy of the Minneapolis Police Department. So that's why it was so important, and that's why we really noticed more witnesses for the prosecution, because they carried that burden of proof to disprove that it was unauthorized use of force, whereas the defense didn't have a burden of proof at all, but they did go ahead and bring a use of force expert to try to convince the jury otherwise. And just a quick update, we are being told that everyone is inside the courtroom for the verdict except the judge and the jury. So that's who we are waiting on right now. We're
waiting on the judge and the jury, judge and the
Thank
jury.
you.
So
And
everybody
right now, I wanna
settled,
show all of our
everybody in their
viewers watching
spot.
around the world. This is a live look outside of the Cup Food store. That store that's gotten so much attention and notoriety because of the tragic event that happened outside of the courtroom, the event that is the issue of this criminal case, the death of George Floyd back on May 25th, 2020. You can see so many people gathering, awaiting the announcement of the verdict. Everyone is in place for this verdict. And as we await the court's announcement, I want to continue that conversation. We were just talking about Barry Broad, the defense expert witness on use of force, and something just despicable that happened. His home was vandalized. So this man gave testimony in this case.
Let's, if they come
vandalized. And so we do have some video of that, I believe. If we can show it, let's do that now, please. This is a look. Just terrible.
Yeah.
Michael and Ted, your reactions?
Yeah, I just want to point out that I believe that was his former home.
His former home.
Yes,
Thank you,
someone
Michael.
else currently lives in the house. He used to live there in San Jose, California. It's interesting when the police there found out about it. They, again, distanced themselves from everything he said. They said his views were not the views of the San Jose Police Department, again, trying to, I imagine, keep the peace, or that's exactly how they feel, that they did not condone some of the things that he said were proper use of force. This type of action, it's, and we've seen this in a couple of different places. I believe what you saw there was pig's blood. I think a pig head was left on the property as well.
Yeah, that's too much.
There's
That's
really
too
no
much.
words to condone or even speak about that kind of behavior. It's just unwarranted, uncalled for. People are
He
entitled to
definitely is past 3:30,
have to
and
keep clear
you know.
heads. We have to keep open hearts, and we have to keep the peace most of all.
That's so true, Michael. Very well said. And we have to have respect of the judicial system, the judicial branch of government, like Judge Peter Cahill was saying yesterday when he was appalled at learning about Congresswoman Maxine Waters' remarks with respect to this case and with respect to what ought to happen if the jury doesn't reach a particular result. And he was saying that this is a co-equal branch of government,
I think that's
with the
it.
legislative branch. And it is appalling to him that elected officials are speaking out and encouraging any fighting to occur, and would ultimately may result in pressure on the jury. We don't want the jurors to feel any pressure. We want them to decide the case based on the evidence, based on the facts and the law. And so that was just despicable what happened to that home. And thank you very much, Michael, for pointing out that correction, that it was Barry Broad's former home. But in any case, no one should deserve that. And that is just appalling. It's really, really sad. And for those of you who are just now joining our coverage, I just want to remind you that we are on a verdict. Watch for the reading now. The verdict is in. We have our cameras in position. This is a live look inside of the courtroom. And what I want to do is I want to, while we're still waiting, everyone is in the courtroom, but obviously there's still a bit of a delay. We were told approximately 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, but as we know, we're past that point, and the time isn't quite right yet, apparently, by the court, but we will let you know. I want to replay what I found to be one of the most compelling moments in this case. It seemed to me to be totally authentic, unplanned, and it came from a very young lady who was a testifying witness for the state. Let's watch.
When I look at George Floyd, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers, I look at my cousins, my uncles.
So I'm just going to mute them really quickly while we're waiting on the verdict, and just to tap in really quick, just to ask, I just want to take an assessment of the live right now. What are you thinking? Are you thinking, I saw guilty. Do you think guilty on all 3 counts? We know Derek Chauvin is charged with manslaughter, murder 2, and murder 3. Are you thinking 1 of the charges, 2 of the charges, all 3, none of the charges? Every thought is welcomed, and I know there are probably some new people here who haven't streamed here before. And let me just say this: we definitely stand on a foundation of dissent and not disrespect. And so this is such an emotionally charged moment, but say how you feel, say what you think, but we can do that without disrespecting anybody. What do we consider disrespect? Name calling, inciting violence, propaganda, or sexually inappropriate comments, okay? So I don't like to block people, but I will block you on the basis of those 4 things. That is what we consider disrespect here. But please feel free to drop your thoughts, your comments, your feelings, dissent all day long. We don't have to agree. You can dissent, disagree. Dissent means disagree all day long, but we definitely do not have to disrespect each other. So please, again, emotionally charged time. Let's tap back in. Let's see what they're saying.
In Minneapolis, the public school system has made an announcement that because the verdict has been reached, they have halted all of the after-school activities. Everything has been canceled for the children. The children will be picked up from school and will not be staying after school for any activities whatsoever, because of course there are enormous safety concerns in this case. We know that has been a major concern with Operation Safety Net, monitoring all of the activities, protesting, everything that's been going on really since this incident occurred. Things haven't ever completely halted. I want to welcome into the conversation now Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan, who's joining our gavel to gavel coverage and the verdict announcement coverage. Vinnie, what does this amount of time of deliberations say to you, please?
Well, let's talk about this entire case. Speed, 330 days since George Floyd died. 330 days. And here we are waiting for a verdict that'll come in any moment now. You talk about the amount of time, a quick amount of time to get him charged, quick time to trial. Then the trial takes place and this jury out for 10 and a half hours on a case that was 3 weeks. It's fast, it's rapid. And I go back to what we all go back to is our first introduction to George Floyd, which unfortunately was the video of his death. And to me, the most powerful piece of evidence any prosecutor has ever had in their hands. And I think that is indicative of where we are now. I think it's difficult to overcome. If I am Derek Chauvin, if I am Eric Nelson, right now, I'm not that optimistic. I think the road for the defense was to make this jury really think about the nuance of the law, the subtleties of all the experts. But if you can come to this conclusion in 10 and a half hours and 12 people can all agree, 12 people all agree.
12 people, right.
To me, that is not good news for the defense here, but I have been surprised many, many times.
Right. That's why I said they all on one accord. It's
Very
either they
true.
believe he is
Michael,
guilty
did it
or they
surprise
believe he
you
is
at all
not,
that we
because
haven't
this
seen
is
any
so
questions
quick.
that this jury has asked of the court since they were sent out for deliberations?
No question about it. I thought, we got word that there was some movement, something was happening. And I said, oh, it must be a question. And we were expecting a question. That was what we all sort of were waiting for. And it turned out to be a verdict. I was very surprised because as Vinnie said, there was enough there that if this was going to be something that these jurors were wrangling over, I mean, think about it. We have not only the 9 minutes and 29 seconds of the tape that everyone's seen, but there was introduced maybe 7-8 hours of video into this case that the jury has access to.
Right.
And this is this is something different too, Julie, that I'd love for you to talk about. The fact that this jury was given the video and a player to deliberate with. Usually when you want to see video, you would ask the court.
I'm a tap back out again because I'm just thinking about something yesterday or a day. Was that yesterday? Yeah, closing arguments was just yesterday. I think to my guy's point that's talking right now on the screen, the jury has received so much evidence, right? So many different videos from different angles. We're talking about body cams from all these different perspectives. We're talking about the new camera angles that we got from the park police that we didn't have that angle, before. All of that, and they are back in less than 20 hours. That definitely says something. I think that the prosecution, with them ending the statement, which we've all heard by now, or if we've not, I'll reiterate it because I think that was such a powerful statement, was we've heard in this case from the defense that George Floyd died from a large heart, but he really died because Derek Chauvin had a small heart. That was so poignant and so landing it right home. I was on the phone with my mom earlier and I was like, it definitely was giving me Johnny Cochran vibes. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. That just landed solidly. And I think it really, really did. As we talked about several times, y'all know we do a Monday through Friday live show here on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope at 7 p.m. CST. Typically it's at 7 p.m. But with the verdict being read right now, it's like we got to go live. We've talked about this and we walked through the defense having to really defend Derek Chauvin. Now, I'm not giving any sympathy to the lawyer that signed up to be the defense counsel because you signed up for that. It was a job. You stood in that. And so we've had to walk through a lot of gaslighting and a lot of triggering language that the defense has thrown out there, but keeping in mind and always trying to bring it back to the context that the defense's job is to make sure his client goes home. The defense's job is to poke holes in the prosecution's case and to give alternative theories, because in a murder trial, you have to prove that this person murdered someone else beyond a reasonable doubt, which means if 11 of the jurors agreed that Derek Chauvin was guilty, but one said, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. That's reasonable doubt. And that would lead to a hung jury, which is a mistrial, which means Derek Chauvin goes home free. Now, that's a win for the defense. That would be a win for Derek Chauvin because ultimately he wants to go home. I would think ideally he would want a not guilty verdict, right? Because with the mistrial, that still leaves him up for the state to potentially take the case back up and try it again. But he would go home. He would go home, right? And that would be that. So we've walked through a lot of the gaslighting and a lot of that. But I really do think, the whole case had been solid for me from jump, because we saw the video. We saw the video. And again, I've said this many times, how all this kind of shaped up. I'm not saying, let me be very clear, I'm not saying God told me to say this. What I'm saying is I believe that God knows all, and we're finding out. And so when watching this case, I'm like, what are the chances, right? What are the chances that the dispatch lady who came and testified, she was the very first witness, had said that, we rarely ever see not dash cam, street cam from these police interactions. She was like, we rarely ever see this, but we have these monitors where dispatch is. And I was seeing this, and I even called it into a sergeant. Hold on, let me back up. She said, I thought that the monitor was frozen based on this interaction they were having, because the officers were on a person for so long. She couldn't even fathom that they were really on him. So she thought that the screen was frozen. Come to find out, she finds out that the screen is not frozen, and she picks up the phone and calls a sergeant, right, who is like their manager to the cops in the field, to say, hey, you can call me a snitch, but this is what's happening, right? So I think for her to even say, you can call me a snitch, that lets you know, one, there's a culture in policing where you're not supposed to tell on each other, right? That's one. So it was pretty loaded. Two, that she clearly recognized that something was wrong. So that's one, right? That's the one thing that's like, okay, that's interesting. Another thing that I'm picking up on is the people who walked up on them, right? The witnesses to this we have to say alleged crime, because everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And that's what we're waiting on right now, the guilty verdict. But one of the witnesses, Mr. Williams, who you hear him get very passionate, and I mean, rightfully so, was skilled in martial arts, was skilled in jujitsu. So literally used to be in the ring, choking folks out, hitting people, like knows how to fight. This is his thing. So him telling him, hey, you're choking him, he can't breathe. He was coming from a place of expertise. Now, do the cops know that? No, they just see somebody walking up. But again, us watching this, right? There were so many times in this whole thing for George Floyd not to have died. But this man is skilled in jiu-jitsu, skilled in making people pass out for a living. That's what he does. Happens to be one of the witnesses. Another one of the witnesses, an EMT walking up. Yes, she was off duty. No, she wasn't in her uniform. So again, okay, cool. The cops don't know who you are. But again, for us watching this, for these pieces to be coming together, this woman is literally, her job is to literally give people life-saving care in emergent type situations. So an EMT walks up, sees that you are clearly choking this man. You clearly have your knee on his neck. He clearly cannot breathe. And she is imploring him to stop, Derek Chauvin to stop. Again, like that, to me, that has blown my mind this entire time. For those, you can call them random events to happen. The prosecution said these people were chosen by fate. I don't believe in fate. I believe that this was an opportunity for Derek Chauvin to learn a lesson prior to this, because even the old man witness, the older gentleman, had just met Derek Chauvin in the community a few days before this incident, and told him, make sure you go home to your family, make sure everybody else go home to their family. Having a conversation about policing with Derek Chauvin, literally days before this incident happened. I think maybe even a week before this incident happened. So no, I don't believe in fate. And I'm not saying that George Floyd had to die, nor am I saying that God told me to say this, but I do believe that God knows all. And so this was an opportunity for Derek Chauvin to learn something. But what are the chances? What are the odds, the fate, if you will, that's the air quotes, that all these witnesses had a specific set of expertise in this specific set of expertise, or literally ran into Chauvin prior to this moment happening? Like, God will tap you on the shoulder. He will tap you. If I ain't learned in my own life, I know in my own life. Again, I ain't saying that God told me to say this. Please don't just hear me clear how I'm processing these things. God will definitely try to get you on the wrong path before you just jump overboard and jump off a cliff. And here we are. What a time, what a moment for this event to literally transform the entire world. Everybody paying attention. Again, not saying George Floyd had to die, not even saying coronavirus had to happen, but in the time of coronavirus, when everything is shut down, ain't nobody doing sports, ain't nobody going to the concert, ain't nobody popping it at the club. We all at home trying to breathe okay. For us to see this video, everybody paying attention to this video, to really rip the scab off of the civil rights movement again, because we've never really been out of it, but to rip the scab and to bring more people into the fold, to see what's actually happening, to see how Black people are disenfranchised, policed, and killed in these streets, for that to be a national and global movement, and for all of this to happen with these particular set of witnesses, for these particular set of witnesses to witness this. Like that I got body chills right now. I really do have body chills right now, because it's, I don't want to say crazy to give the wrong impression, but it's a moment that I think I'm going to, and I would implore everybody else to really pause and think about. And like God showed him, and it's showing us something. And so we have to learn. And when I say God, because there are many gods, I'm talking about Jesus, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, just to be very clear, very clear. He is showing us something. He's always showing us something. He's always teaching us. He's always guiding us. He's always loving us. But in this moment, or not in but, and in this moment, for it to be so clear, like, I just think that this is an opportunity that we all really need to sit back and think about this and learn from this. And if nothing else, baby, fall on your knees and submit to Christ. If nothing else, give it to him, because he will definitely guide you and direct you. So I don't know what's going on. Let's tap back into the video real quick. Let's see what they're talking about. We're still waiting on the verdict. For those that are getting in, we still don't have the verdict. We're waiting on that. But let's tap in and see what they're talking about.
Justice is living in a world where Chauvin understood what fraternity from the age of 5. Justice is a lot of these folks here, a lot of these conversations,
oh, no, I can
with their counterparts, with their co-workers. The work is going to need to continue going forward regardless of the verdict. We can celebrate for a day, but we need to continue this work going forward. We can celebrate for a day, but we need to continue this work going forward. We can celebrate for a day, but we need to continue this work going forward. So I want you to recognize why you're out here. Know why you're out here. It really hit deep into your heart why you're going to stay here and why we're going to rally regardless of the verdict. We're going to demand justice regardless of the verdict, because justice is living in a world where John Wright was never murdered. That's right. Justice is living in a world where an excuse, oops, I reached for my page when I have my gun, it's not a reality. Justice is living in a world where Minnesota has not made the nation and makes them the barriers to education, employment, and law enforcement. And we came out here for George Floyd. What's his name? George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! What's his name? George Floyd! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
Okay, and the video froze just a moment ago, but chanting his name, say his name, George Floyd. And that was how the state began their closing arguments yesterday, saying his name was George Perry Floyd Jr. That was how the state started its closing arguments for the jury. A reminder, a very powerful reminder, what this case is about. At the end of the day, it is about the man who died on May 25th, 2020.
Yeah.
And the question for the jury to decide is one of responsibility, whether Derek Chauvin was ultimately the person or one of the persons responsible for George Floyd's death. And before we started watching this video of those gathered around the Hennepin County Government Center, we were talking about the very young bystander witnesses who watched that horrific incident unfolding. We talked about Darnella Frazier. There was also a 9-year-old who was called to give testimony. And we do have a clip of her testimony. I want to play it for you now.
Tell us what happened after you saw the ambulance come.
Yes, the ambulance had to push him off of him.
And how did that happen? Did they simply come in an ambulance and then go up to push him off, or what happened?
They asked him nicely to get off of him.
And when they asked him nicely to get off of him, what did he do?
He still stayed on him.
And then what happened after he still stayed on him? What did the ambulance people do?
They just had to put him off, get off of him.
And, you know, hearing that young child establish that fact, it was very important for the prosecution to get that fact. One, for them to show that it was unrelenting, the force that was applied to George Floyd's body. And getting it from a 9-year-old, it made me think, well, why wasn't this elicited perhaps from an older witness? Did this 9-year-old child have to give that testimony?
Right.
And the answer is yes. There was a reason the prosecutors put on her testimony, and that is because of what they hope to do if they're able to obtain a conviction, and that is to have this go to an aggravating factor that the court could consider at the time of sentencing. So if there's a conviction and there is a minor child present with a crime of violence such as this one, then the state can ask the court for an upward departure of the guidelines. Now, what I want to do is play a clip from Special Prosecutor Steve Slisher. Let's watch.
You know, but even more so, she's talking right now from a law perspective, which I get that. I totally get what she's talking about. And I didn't even know that if a child was present, you know, they could ask for an increase in whatever the sentencing is going to be. But on the human side of that, like, that baby witnessed something very traumatic at 9 years old. Like, she literally witnessed someone's life being snuffed out of them in front of her. So let's not forget her either, or the other young children that were present. That is, I remember when my innocence got broke. It wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the moment of where it was like, oh gosh, now I know I'm not, you know how you kids, you think you're invincible, you think you can do all these things. And not saying you can't do things, but you just have this sense of invincibility. Like, nothing can happen to you, nothing can hurt you. And then you have a moment where all of that cracks. Like, who's to say that wasn't that baby girl's cracking moment? Or if she already got it cracked, it may have cracked all over again. Like, that was super traumatic. And so even if there's a conviction, like, how do we get her innocence back? How do we get her to not have seen an alleged murder in front of her face? A question.
Right now, again, we do have a verdict in the case of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin. Our understanding at the moment is that everyone is in place. The jury is in the courthouse at the moment. The judge is there. Not sure if they're in the courtroom just yet, but we do know that Eric Nelson, Derek Chauvin are all in the courtroom as well. And in just a few minutes, we are expecting them to read this historic verdict. I want to bring in all of our gang. Of course, we have Julie Grant, who remains in studio with us. Our lead anchor, Vinnie Politan, is here as well. And out in Minneapolis, we have Chanley Painter and Julia Janae. They've been live in Minneapolis from day one. Chanley, let me go to you very quickly. You know, we just looked outside and we saw some chanting. We saw a veritable bouquet of humanity out there protesting, still making the point that even after the verdict, no matter what it is, there's still work to be done. Give me a sense of what you've seen. I know you've spent a lot of time roaming around the city and taking in what's going on. Give me a sense of how this city is anticipating or the feeling towards this verdict that's coming in just a few minutes.
The city of Minneapolis has been preparing for months for this trial, for the verdict. even formulating Operation Safety Net, which has different phases of level of security. For example, they've invested millions of dollars in infrastructure. You can see the huge chain link fences, the concrete barriers surrounding the fortress that is the courthouse where this verdict will come down. And that space that we're watching right now is one of those First Amendment spaces they have designated for those who want to protest and to gather during this time. They have that opportunity to do so. And of course, all around downtown, we have the military presence, and the magnitude of which is still really unreal to see firsthand. And it's nothing like we've really ever seen. But this is something that the city expected. And this crowd is growing by the minute, Michael. As people are learning that there is a verdict in this historic case, more and more are coming downtown to be a part of it. We expect this to grow and to continue into the evening. We learned that school was being let out early today, that they are going to have in-home sessions the rest of the week. Preparations, there's the Cup Foods, George Floyd Square has a presence as well. We're expecting all of the safety precautions to be in place and hoping and praying that it's all peaceful and everyone stays safe.
Oh, absolutely. No question. Julia, Janae, let me check in with you very quickly. I know you've had an opportunity to do some interviews with folks on the street. We played quite a few of them here on my show, I know, and throughout the day here at Court TV. Just from talking to people out there, and I'm sure you've talked to people who didn't want to be interviewed, people who were interviewed on camera, and it seemed like from things that I've been able to discern from those interviews, people are hopeful for justice. Now, what do you think they're thinking justice is in this case?
It depends on who you talk to, for sure. But those who are really concerned about how bad things have been for Minneapolis after the unrest of the summer of 2020, all the way up until this moment, and concerned about how people will react to the verdict, whatever it is, you can tell that they are not only concerned for their own safety, their family safety, their homes, their communities, because some people on the ground actually said they were getting out of town for this verdict as things got closer to a possible day that this jury would come back with their decision, just because there was this uncertainty of not knowing. But there were others who did say that despite the fact that there are expected protests, that there will be demonstrations and the possibility of riots, depending on what the outcome is, they said that this was important for healing for their community because of everything that has happened. If everyone can watch this and it be the culmination of what has been just unrest for many, many, many months for this area, they believe that it was important for this trial to be held here. Now, when we talk to those community activists, those who've been pushing for racial equality, for them, the justice in this case is only a conviction, and really it's a conviction of murder and not that lower charge of manslaughter in this case. But most are looking for at least some kind of a conviction to just show that if an African-American man who is unarmed is killed by police, that there will be consequences for that. So a lot is riding on this case, despite the fact of what happens inside this courtroom or what happened in the courtroom. There are people who have tacked on other cases that they felt didn't get handled the way that they felt it should have. They're looking at this one to remedy that.
No question about it. And Vinnie Politan, I want to get you involved now. We talked about justice, what it may look like, and Julia talked about a couple of different groups and what justice might look like to them. I want you to put on your criminal defense hat now. I know that's difficult for you, but I want you to do that for us. And I want you to take a look and think if perhaps there was a fair...
Okay, just to give y'all an update, we are waiting on the judge. I suppose the families are in the room. Derek Chauvin is in the room. We got a message earlier that the judge and the jury were there, but I don't know if we got clarification of what there meant. Is that the courtroom or just in court? I would think that the jury was always in court or, wherever they are. So that's what we're waiting on. We expected this verdict to be read about 34 minutes ago. About 34 minutes ago. So I don't know what we're waiting on. I need them to come on. As you can see, my mother's calling me. She's probably trying to figure out what's going on. So let's step back in.
but we've never quite seen one with this mixture. And it comes back to what I was originally saying, which is the speed of all of this. The wounds are still raw. Everything is raw, and the trial is taking place. Usually when we have a trial like this, it's been a year, it's been 2 years, and while it still hurts, it's not quite at the same stage that this one is at. So that inflames everything. Sequestering a jury, yes, you can protect them, and I've seen it in other cases. They've done it in other cases. They did it in the Zimmerman case. So I think that is going to be the one area where the defense is going to say there was just too much happening around here. But you're going to need actual evidence that it.
Why is Court TV not showing this? CNN is showing.
To have some evidence that a juror heard something, saw something, and what they heard or saw.
Okay, the judge is talking on CNN.
Made them change their mind. And I don't know if we're going to get.
Oh, there we go.
Vinny, sorry to cut you off. Actually, you're done anyway. I'm going to take everyone into court. It looks like the judge is on the bench.
Okay.
It is time, I believe, for the reading of the verdict.
All right, for the jury.
Court TV is behind. People saying that the CNN is.
All right, please be seated.
Okay. This right here.
Members of the jury, I understand you have a verdict.
People saying in the comments that he's guilty.
Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed,
Okay.
Juror 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict
Guilty!
20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually.
That's what I'm talking about. We knew you was guilty. Sitting here looking confused. You did it.
Are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
That's what I'm talking about. Come on, jury.
Are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 85, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes.
Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the
Yes!
be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service.
Heavy
What I'm
duty.
going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back into your usual room and I will join you in a few minutes to answer
Baby, you
questions.
is guilty. You
And
are
recognize you first.
guilty.
So,
Now I can stop
all
saying
right.
allegedly. Now I can stop saying allegedly. You murdered him. We've convicted you. You murdered George Floyd. That's it. Go to jail. Go to jail.
All right, be seated. With the guilty verdicts returned, we're going to have Blakely, you may file a written argument as to Blakely factors within 1 week. The court will issue findings on the Blakely factors, the factual findings, 1 week after that. We'll order a PSI immediately returnable in 4 weeks. And we will also have a briefing on, after you get the PSI, 6 weeks from now, and then 8 weeks from now, we will have sentencing. We'll get you the exact dates
Okay. Yeah, in
in
2
a
months.
scheduling order. Is there a motion on behalf of the state?
Find out.
They would move to have the court revoke the defendant's bail and remand him into custody pending sentencing.
Bail is revoked, bond is discharged,
Going to jail.
and the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Hennepin County Sheriff.
He is going to
Anything for-
jail.
All right, thank you.
That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. What we just watched, to jail, baby in handcuffs.
We're adjourned.
Jail. Jail. Let me close this out real quick.
So, counsel, Jace.
Listen, people. Child, it has been a long year. A long year. I am like, I feel like I'm gonna go through a range of emotions right now. I'm just happy that he's going to jail. I'm just happy that he is going to prison. Y'all know I done said it time and time again. I don't want death on him. I do not believe in the death penalty. I'm not advocating for that. What we have been advocating for here on this channel is for accountability. And a part of me is happy, but then a part of me, I think the part that's gonna come a little later is I'm gonna be like, but George is still not here. And like I just mentioned, a 9-year-old girl and those other people that had to witness this have still been victimized. A nation has still been victimized. Like, it took all this for a cop to go to jail. All of this. So although I am elated, I'm going to sit in the elatedness. That's not a word. Don't go out there and tell it to the people because you're going to sound uneducated. I'm going to sit in this moment that justice is being served, that he is being reprimanded, bail is revoked. You do not get to go out here and flaunt and pomp all over the place. You have to go to jail, straight to jail right now. Go to jail. And in 2 months, we'll do a sentencing guidelines. Baby, all of them. The judge needs to throw the book at him because, again, that was a depraved mind we were looking at. That was an indifference to life. That was, yeah, you got me on camera and I'm still going to do it anyway because I'm a cop and I'm going to get off. That was given very much, I don't care who he is, even when the other cop told him, you know, maybe we should roll him on the side. No, he's going to stay right here. That showed you did not care. And per the judge, per the judicial system, you are a murderer. And so you have murdered and have been convicted of murder for George Floyd. Go to jail. That's what we want to see. All other cops, we will be holding you accountable because you just cannot go out and indiscriminately kill Black, brown, indigenous, or white folks for that matter. We don't even want white people to get shot down in the street like that, but you don't treat white folks like that. You treat us like that, and we ain't having it no more. I'm just... I don't know. How do y'all feel? I'm seeing people saying they are crying. I see people saying they in tears. I see people saying their elation. Now book the little, okay, I'm not going to read that. How do y'all feel? How do y'all feel? The next question is if the other officers is in the case will plead out rather than go through the risk. Kendra says the relief I feel is immense. I don't know if I can get myself together and go back to work. Somebody said justice with a Black heart. Someone said, I bet he wishes that he had listened to those bystanders. Oh, thank you all for the super stickers that are coming in. I appreciate that. Let's see. Someone said they're elated. Justice was served today, still has a ways to go, but this is a start. Tears of relief. Jessica G is feeling happy. Baby Bryce is at work crying. Guilty on all charges. I think all should be held accountable, not just him. That trial is coming up later in the year. Okay, I'm screaming in class. Okay, this is so amazing. Even after then, he still had no emotion. Let's see. What'd somebody say about Rodney King? Hold on, it jumped too quick. Okay, this is the first step. Thank you for walking us through this. Oh, you're so very welcome. I love to do it. I hate to be talking about this, but love to do it. Better set a precedent. Oh gosh, let me pull this one up. Thank you so much for this super comment. Thank you so much for covering this for us, Q. You held it down for us who couldn't watch this trial live. You are the best. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Let's see. D Will said, brother, I don't get to see you live, but I got you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. Baby, you ain't lying. You ain't lying. Somebody said, Q, you need a vacation before the other officers go on trial. You ain't lying, baby. Ooh, child, you ain't lying, because this has been a lot. This has been a lot. Let's see. How many years do you think they will give him? I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't remember how many years each sentence carries, but I'll come back. I'll make a video. So we will talk about that. Thank you all. Thank you for saying thank you. I appreciate that. That's very encouraging. Yes, we still will be back. I just woke up my boyfriend. I was screaming so loud, very emotional moment. Thank you for that super sticker. I really appreciate it. The fact that he looked confused shows how much he thought his white privilege would have sent him home. That right there, that's the tweet. That is the tweet. Yaya, oh gosh, hold on right here. Thank you for this super comment, Yaya. Thank you for staying with the trial. This has been so emotional. You're so very welcome. Thank you. Let's see. What else do we have? Go straight to jail. Do not collect $200. Justice for George Floyd. Thank you for this super comment. We love you. Thank you for this commentary. I appreciate you. I love you all back. Hey, you're helping me be here, so I appreciate that. Another super comment. Now they need to get Miss, I forgot what a taser is. Oh, I haven't even tapped into that. I could only do one at a time. I couldn't overload myself, but I know what you're talking about. We'll just dive into that as that comes about. But I had to stick with the trial, baby. I couldn't be all over the place. I would have been an emotional wreck. I would have been exhausted. Let's see. Chauvin could face up to 40 years in prison for second degree, up to 25 years for third degree murder, and up to 10 years for second degree manslaughter. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. Guilty on all counts. Q, you deserve 1 million followers. Appreciate your work on covering this trial. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You have no idea. Y'all know I love to do it. We do this every night, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. CST. We break down the day's events. Caitlin says, thank you. Thank you for that super comment. Thank you for covering this. Alice, another super comment. Thank you for all the work here and on TikTok. Thank you. I appreciate it. I will, whenever we end this live, I will be making a TikTok just recapping what we just saw as well. So that'll be coming. Y'all, my interns are blowing me up. They texted me. The interns is texting me. I don't know what they said. Mama calling me. Everybody want to talk, child. Everybody want to talk. Sorry, if you're here for the first time, this is an inside joke when we do the lives. I see you. Just want to put a smile on your face. LOL. Thank you so much. That's an inside joke. She's one of our regular viewers here down here when we do the live, baby, when we do the live. Okay, let's see. Absolutely elated. The fact that he had 19 complaints of police brutality and only rep for 2. He needed his feet held to the fire. I think the judge has been very fair in this whole process. I think the judge is really going to, throw the book at him. That's just me. I really think the judge is going to throw the book at him. Shout out to Amy. Hey, Amy. Amy, everybody say hey to Amy. Amy's one. Oh, I can't even say my intern. Amy is now one of my employees. Amy was an intern, but she's now one of my employees. Hey, Amy, I see you in the comments. Let's see. Love you on TikTok. Thank you for your feedback. Love you all. Yeah. I think the judge is actually going to throw the book at him. That's what I think. That is absolutely what I think. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the live right now. Oh, you know what? I never put the banner up. If you'd like to, you can. Totally not needed. I totally forgot to put my banner up for my Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. If you learned something, if you enjoyed the coverage like other people have said, and you just want to, donate. This helps us keep doing this thing full time. As you can see, Amy's in the comments, who is now my employee. Shout out to Amy. All of that definitely helps this. It's not just me like taking your money and just, lollygagging somewhere. We're actually doing real work here. So if you want to give a super comment, want to give a super chat, you can, or you can give a Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. What's the other one? PayPal. You can do all those things, but no pressure. If not, you can just keep watching for free too. That works as well. Brian Price, thank you so much for the super comment. Thank you for covering this. He's facing 40 years. My white stepdaughter just watched me burst into tears. Okay, listen. Come on. I cried. I was so happy. That's what's up. Does the jury also do the sentencing? No, he elected for the judge to do the sentencing. So the judge is going to be the one that does it in 8 weeks. So we're looking at 2 months. What'd that push us in? We're almost in May, June. So what's that, July? Like early July? Mid-June? Latter June. That's what it is. So we'll stay up to date on that. Thank you for this super sticker. Thank you so much for this super sticker. Guys, we'll be back tonight at 7 p.m. I do a roundup show. We're just going to round up. I'm sure I'm going to have some more emotions and feelings about everything. So we'll be back tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'd love for you all to join us and come chit chat with that crew. So until next time, guys, well, if Jesus says the same, I'll be back tonight. I love you all in the Lord. I'm so appreciative that you decided to stream here with me. I'll be back later. A lot of people watched it, but nobody's watching day to day, all day, unless you're me and just love this stuff. Procedures are okay, but we want to know, where do you stand? And so I think the more that politicians stop trying to be politicians and be people, then that will engage voters. We reject alternative facts, so come on in here and let me educate you on the facts.